Happy New Year! What's going on, everyone? Lauren Sisler here with AL.com, and it is January 1st. We have rung in the new year. We have flipped the page officially to 2021, but technically we're still in the 2020 college football season. And guess what? Today is the day for the college football playoff. It's going to be a big one. Alabama and Notre Dame going head-to-head at 3 o'clock on ESPN. And to talk about the game, matchup, everything there is to talk about that is Alabama football, Matt Scalisi. And Matt, first of all, Happy New Year to you. How are you feeling? Are you feeling rejuvenated?
Happy New Year. I'm relatively well rested. My kids kept me up a little bit last night, but it's, I just look outside and it's not, I can tell it's not 2020 anymore. I can't explain why, but I know.
You know it's not 2020. We
Something feels good.
Feeling good. The calendar has been flipped. Hey, we appreciate you for joining us, and we appreciate our sponsors, Andrews Sports Medicine. What's up? Thanks for the hats, y'all. Okay, so big game today, Alabama, Notre Dame. And, here's kind of the big narrative coming into this one. Of course, it's worth noting it is the Rose Bowl, will be played in Texas. So that's number one, kind of different. Number two, so Notre Dame has been kind of the narrative coming into this football game. First of all, Alabama opened as a 20 and a half point favorite. There we go. 20 and a half point favorite, the largest ever in college football semifinal or national championship history. But a lot of people want to rewind back to that 2012 game in which Alabama essentially steamrolled Notre Dame. And that has kind of been the narrative. I mean, can Notre Dame even compete? Is there any thought that they can go out here and potentially compete with Alabama and win the college football playoff and give themselves a chance at a national championship? So that's been a lot of what I've been hearing all week long, and sort of the powers that be and the folks over at Notre Dame having to kind of, talk against that notion. Yeah. So just get your thoughts on that first and foremost.
It is funny because a lot of schools would take that opportunity, if you're Notre Dame, and say, we love this. We love that everybody's underestimating us. They're talking us down. We're just going to use it as motivation. They do seem in the media opportunities to be taking a different tack to it, like a little bit defensive, a little bit almost like they can't believe that people are discounting them. They think there's a lot of talk about narrative and how they're much better now. It's not going to happen to them again. And I'm sort of splitting hairs here, I guess, a little bit. But I don't think Notre Dame seems to be embracing the underdog role, which would be very easy to do in this situation. And Alabama generally, Nick Saban hates all this stuff where everyone's saying his team's going to win in a blowout. That's famously what Nick Saban would refer to as rat poison. So it's weird because I don't really see Alabama shying away from it, and I don't really see Notre Dame embracing the underdog role. It seems like, I hesitate to say this, but it seems like Alabama feels an opportunity to intimidate Notre Dame here. And that's a thing that not a ton of playoff teams allow to happen. Everybody generally feels like we're big dogs, we belong here. But we've seen in the past, and I would say it happened in 2012 when that game, a lot of people will tell you, was won when Alabama came out of the tunnel because Notre Dame just wasn't feeling it that night. They in no way believed that they could beat that Alabama team. And I think they have an experienced quarterback. They have some really good players on their offense for Notre Dame. But I think that's something you have to watch for early, especially with this Alabama team and this explosive offense. They can take some teams out of games emotionally early. They can make you quit on yourself. Yeah.
Well, and again, I think, to your point, it almost feels like in some ways the emotions are extremely high already going into this. Just sort of the defensive nature of it, just kind of how you said that Notre Dame's not really embracing the underdog role. In some ways it's almost like they're sort of masking potentially what some of the emotions of this game could certainly bring to the forefront. Look, I guess, kind of looking at some of the storylines in this matchup, some key storylines. First and foremost, I think it's worth noting we come into this week. We have 6 All-Americans named to first team, which is pretty impressive stuff when you look at the body of work that Alabama has put on the field this year, and just, the guys that they have sort of running the show, right? Offensively, you have a quarterback in Mac Jones that has just commanded this offense, has played almost mistake-free football throughout the entire season, knows how to create those explosive plays, has the playmakers to do it. But then on the flip side of that, I would say Notre Dame's defense has been pretty exceptional this year. They've held opponents to just 220 passing yards, and opposing quarterbacks to less than 50% of their completions. And they've been especially good in limiting explosive plays. And that is what Alabama does really well. And so I am kind of anxious to see how this Notre Dame defense matches up against this prolific offense that Alabama brings to the field. What are your thoughts sort of on the key matchup that you're looking at that you're excited to see?
Well, I do think that this is going to be one of the better defenses Alabama's played all year, and I think that they face a challenge in replacing Landon Dickerson at center, which is obviously a key cog that makes the whole machine work properly. It could take them some adjustment for a quarter or so to really get Chris Owens' feet under him at center. That said, there's a reason why this offense has 3 of the top 5 vote getters in the Heisman Trophy race this year. It is a spectacular offense. It is one of the best offenses we have ever seen in college football history. And you can definitely get stops against them, but you can't shut them out and you can't hold them down for very long. They're going to score on you. They just have too many weapons and too many opportunities to get the ball into space to players who can do incredible things with the ball once they get it. I mean, I think we saw it against Arkansas, and I realize that today Alabama is playing a much better team than Arkansas, but I think that is an example of what this team can do. Arkansas basically said, no explosive plays. Whatever you're going to do against us, we're not going to let you go over the top on us all day. And Mac Jones just sat there and picked them apart underneath. He threw little underneath routes and crossing routes, and eventually it's a blowout by the end of the game. And they're always going to find a way to move the ball and score, in part because they have spectacular talent on that offense, but also because Steve Sarkisian is so very good at scheming his players open. They did it against Florida a couple of weeks ago, probably most impressively at any point in the season. Devontae Smith, somehow you kind of watch that whole game and it feels like he's not running roughshod over Florida the way that he did against LSU and some other teams this year. But you look up and he's breaking the school record for receptions in a game. He's got 2 touchdowns. Najee Harris suddenly turns into an elite receiver in that game. So they just have too many talented guys to be able to hold them down. Now, the Alabama defense, we know, can be exploited at times, and you can make plays against them. And I think particularly Notre Dame is going to try to get really physical against this Alabama defense and kind of wear them out and punish them and hope to give themselves a chance later in the game. But I think you have to, if you're going to do that and play it that way, you have to also hit on some opportunities early. You have to go for the big play. You have to go for the deep shot, I think, a couple of times early, and they need to work out. Because if you get stopped a few times early in this game, you're probably already done for.
Yeah, and I want to go back to one thing. You talk about Landon Dickerson being out. He was said to have had successful surgery. Chris Owens, Nick Saban has said all week, jack of all trades, jack of all trades. He's played at pretty much every position on the line. So I'm with you. I think it's going to take a little bit of adjusting, get him in there, but he's a fifth-year senior. He's got experience. I think he will be fine, but it's worth noting on the other side of it, Notre Dame lost their starter in mid-November, Jarrett Patterson. So they've kind of been having to shuffle guys around on the line to kind of figure out who's going to be their starter. And according to Coach Kelly, he said that will be a game time decision against Alabama. So they're kind of dealing with some of their own issues on the line in terms of injuries and sort of what that looks like. But offensively, Notre Dame's quarterback, Ian Book, he's been really terrific all year. He's a great game manager, much like Mac Jones. He's only thrown 2 interceptions and I guess 314 passes, which is a stat that kind of stood out to me. But I will say that the level of opponent that they've played, especially on the defensive side of football, has not been what they're going to see against this Alabama football team. And so I think that is going to be a key factor in all of this. Can Ian Book perform under this circumstance on this big stage and be able to limit the mistakes and, keep, are they going to be able to protect their quarterback and keep Alabama from getting pressure on them? And then I think finishing drives is going to be key for both football teams. Finish drives, obviously convert on third down. And, I think that we're going to see a probably, pretty aggressive play calling scheme from Notre Dame, especially early on, because here's the thing. Like you said, I think Alabama can get out to a quick start and it can deflate you very quickly, pull the wind out of the sails very quickly. And I'm about to sneeze. My nose is tickling.
Well, to answer you though, I think you have to do it that way. I mean, look, I'm if I was a football coach, I'd probably be broadcasting from a nicer facility right now than my kids' playroom. But that said, I've watched every Alabama game for the last 12 years for my job, and I have to say, under Nick Saban, the way that you can't just be patient and hope to beat Alabama. I can't think of a single instance where somebody just ground Alabama down to a nub and beat them by wearing them out. You have to be aggressive. You have to get outside your comfort zone if you want to beat Alabama, and you have to take chances that when they don't work, people are going to say, well, that was stupid. Why did you do that? And the answer is you have to take stupid chances because you're playing against a team with so much better talent than you. And I realize that Notre Dame is a playoff team, but the talent gap between Alabama and Notre Dame is big. It is the widest talent gap perhaps that we have seen in the college football playoffs since Alabama played Washington a few years ago. It's just what it is. These are not equal talent level programs. And so Notre Dame has to take chances. They have to get risky. And I do think Ian Book is kind of well positioned to do that, to have the kind of game you have to have against Alabama. I think he has to do some things that Alabama fans would be reminded of Johnny Manziel. People go back to that a lot, but I do think that's kind of the template for beating Alabama. If you come into the game against Alabama and run your offense that you're experienced running and you've practiced and you've done it in every game and it works, you're not going to beat Alabama. You have to do some stupid stuff. You have to step up in the pocket and somehow throw the ball when it doesn't look like you have the opportunity to throw it. You have to do things that catch Alabama completely off guard and that they could not possibly have prepared for or seen on film. And Ian Book actually is pretty good at that. He's very improvisational. He finds a way to turn failed plays into successes. And he's probably going to do it a few times today against Alabama. I think if he can do it a bunch of times, that's what gives Notre Dame a chance.
Yeah, definitely. Bottom line is Alabama, of all the football teams that we've seen, there's a reason they're ranked number one, not only with the talent, but the consistency in which they've played with pretty much all season long. Defensively, not as consistent. It has taken some time to kind of get the kinks worked out there, but certainly have stepped up and performed well, especially as of late. So I think it's going to be a fun one. And one of our lovely viewers here, Jump Boy Jump, said, I took off work for this game. It better be good. So,
I mean, if you're good is a relative term, right? I mean, if it could be exciting, I don't know. But I think a lot of Alabama fans do like watching Alabama blow out other teams. It's boring to people who don't have skin in the game, but I think Alabama fans tend to enjoy blowouts more than they enjoy close games in a lot of cases. So I think the odds are high that if you're that kind of person, you're probably going to have a good time today. But who knows, man? I mean, Brian Kelly is very experienced. He's been coaching as long as Nick Saban has or longer, and he's had a lot of success. He's not a dumb coach. This is not a fly-by-night program. They're known for disappointing when they get on the big stage, but that's also, as Brian Kelly would tell you, that's just given them more opportunities to learn. And eventually, I think the hope that Notre Dame fans have today is maybe we finally learn from all of these times where we got on the big stage and flopped. Maybe today's the day that we finally do it different. But history suggests that this will be a fun one for Alabama fans.
Yeah, definitely. Zach Lawler here chimed in and said, I hate when it's close. Yeah, I'd say you and a lot of
Alabama fans don't like that stuff, man. They don't want to be sweating. They like to just watch their guys go out there and have fun and have a track meet.
It's kind of funny that they actually like that's even up for discussion, because most teams don't get to even have the choice of whether they'd like to be close.
I don't think Alabama fans are nervous about this game at all, which is remarkable in itself, and maybe they're proven to be wrong later. But I don't get the sense that this is like, okay, it's a big one. Get yourself hyped up. Let's go. This is like when they played Arkansas. I have no doubt that 3/4 of Alabama fans, at least today, are not worried about this game. They're happy about it and they're excited that it's going to happen, but they're not sweating about Notre Dame, and that's pretty amazing that that's a playoff game.
Yeah.
Thank you to our producer for quoting me in what will surely be brought up to mock me later. If this
this is like the Fighting Reese Davis's comment from you there, Matt. Good job. That's going to come up for sure. Good job. No, all good stuff. And I think you're right. It seems like the consensus amongst a lot of the fans here is Douglas Case says we're playing a junior high team. So, it'll be fun. It'll be a good one to watch. I know that everyone's excited. We've made it to this point. I think that's one thing that we have to be very excited for as we have turned the page to 2021. We're not out of the weeds yet with COVID-19 and all the challenges that face us, but to be able to be at this point playing college football, getting here on the home stretch, I think is pretty remarkable. And these kids have fought through it, and just being a part of that and seeing how they fought through it, and you just watch the videos of just the constant testing and just the mental toll it takes on you. It's tough.
And you too, Lauren, by the way. Lauren has been going through all of that all season long, and doing her sideline work for ESPN at all of these games, and did a couple of bowl games. And Lauren had to go through a lot of the same testing procedures as everybody else. So props to you for going through it.
I really appreciate that, Matt, because I will tell you, it is the mental toll that it takes on you. Every time you get that notice in your inbox that says, hey, your report's back, you go to open it up, my heart skips a beat for a minute, and there's just so many ramifications and everything that comes with it, and the contact tracing and just making sure everybody's healthy and safe. And it's a lot. And so, it's a visual, I think, that will be ingrained inside of us for a very long time. But again, thankful for all the people out there, Matt, thankful for you. And here we are, 2021, looking forward to a bright future. I know we're turning the page, and we just appreciate all of our followers and viewers that have been with us this entire season. You guys make this job fun and make it interesting. So we hope you'll join us again for the post game when it all is said and done. So the game kicks off 3:00, guys. So grab a Diet Coke if you're me, Coke Zero, whatever, whatever suits your fancy here on this New Year's Day. Get ready for a fun one, and we'll be with you to break things down when all is said and done after the football game. So we appreciate you, Matt Scalisi, and we appreciate our sponsors, Andrews Sports Medicine. Andrews Sports Medicine, aggressively pursuing victory over injury. Call 205-939-36